At the beginning, it would be maybe too much to look for the style, and you will find the style over the years. So for anyone who is starting, I think like focusing on building the portfolio is a must or has more priority than looking for their style. So they can develop their portfolio, they can launch their portfolio while at the same time and also after they are still looking for their style. So I don't think having your style defined is necessary for launching the portfolio. And there can be two directions.
This is your host, Dyutima, but you can call me DJ. And I love to inspire food photographers to dream. I spent 15 years as an architect studying buildings and constructing hospitals before taking the biggest leap of faith of my life, which was setting up a food styling and food photography business right from scratch. If you're a dreamer like me, wanting to start a new photography business or grow your existing food photography business, jump right into a world where I share practical, actionable strategies to improve your photography skills, to work with clients, make more money, all with a fearless mindset. This is the My Food Lens podcast, and we take you one step closer to your dreams. So let's go. Welcome to another episode of the My Food Lens podcast. And today you are in for a treat, and I really mean it. And that is because we are talking about a topic that is highly underrated, but by far and probably one of the most critical aspects of actually being able to make a successful business of food photography. Today we're going to talk all about professional portfolios for food photographers. Everything that you have ever wanted to know and every question that you have in your mind, I think we're going to cover all of it. In fact, it's going to be an episode that I wish I had access to when I started food photography. And we have someone terrific who's going to come and talk all about it. She is Lucia. I'm sure you all know Lucia from the Instagram world. She's a food photographer. She's a food photography teacher. She's a coach. And she's an online business consultant. She was born in Slovakia. She lives in Italy, and she is absolutely amazing. And she is a master. In fact, this is what she teaches her students. She's a master at creating food photography portfolios, mentoring, guiding, and coaching her students on how to build a profitable food photography portfolio. She's here to tell us all about it. And I am really telling you, you're in for a treat because we are going to go from everything ranging from how to create a food photography portfolio to what you need. Like, do you need to define your style? What are some important considerations? How do you create an impactful portfolio, which is not just beautiful, but it's really bringing profit? How do you present your portfolio in a meeting? What do you do when you pitch to a client? How do you organize your photos? Is it light and dark, or is it bright and moody, or is it artificial light and natural light? And how do you negotiate better rates with your portfolio? How do you attract clients? How do you bring business? How do you elevate your brand? And how do you get feedback to keep improving? So much and much more. If your head is not spinning, then it's going to spin even more, but in a very good way. I promise you that. All right. This is part one of our conversation with Lucia. Let me invite her and let's get started. Hi, Lucia, and welcome to My Food Lens podcast. Such an absolute delight to have you with us today.
Thank you, Dyutima, very much for the invitation. And I'm super, super honored and very excited about today's conversation. So thank you for having me.
And I think it's going to be a very fantastic conversation because I think the discussion around portfolios is so highly underrated. Right now, everybody's talking about business and pricing. And I feel like the conversation about portfolio has gotten kind of, taken a backstage. But what our audience or our listeners will realize today, as we continue, as we go on with this conversation, is how critical and how important it is to actually get a project, attract our clients, and showcase our work in the best light. It can actually be key to getting some of our dream clients. So I'm sure you're going to tell us all about it and we are all excited. But Lucia, a way that we start this podcast is a bit different. All right. We talk so much about education and all the serious stuff. And that's why I like to begin my episodes with something very light and easy. And, we always see you on Instagram as this very education advocate, very pedantic, always keep, telling us how to do things. I want us to like kind of shake it out and, get a little bit of a different energy before we get into that conversation. So I would like Lucia to kind of shake it out and share with us something fun, something surprising, a side of Lucia that we may not have seen before.
Well, absolutely. So, because I speak with a lot of my members and so on and so forth, and they always tell me, "Oh, you are so organized. Like you have everything so organized." And while it's true because I'm really good at, organizing all the processes, and you tell me what you want to do, and I tell you immediately, okay, step number one, step number two, step number three, and I can organize the entire process into little steps. But I am super disorganized at home. Like I need to balance it, and I am extremely organized with the processes, and it comes from my previous corporate job. And I have to balance it with, like heavy lift.
Yes,
And
yes.
so the kitchen when I cook is a complete mess. The cabinets in the kitchen, like all the jars and this is it's like a mess. My bedside is messy. The other bedside of my partner is like super organized.
Wow.
The cabinets with my clothes, like very often I go from season to season without like changing the cabinets because I just keep them like, working from home, you don't use your clothes that much. And so you're just, in the middle of summer and you remember, I was supposed to change my clothes. And then I remember like in 2 months, there is the autumn. We don't need that. Let's just,
Oh,
so
wow. That is so interesting. You know how everyone says that you always have one side for yourself and one side for the world? Well, clearly you are living it. You are the living example, but that's so good. I love it. And I think a lot of folks who are listening are going to relate so much to it because they always feel like, a lot of folks feel like, oh, we have to be like this in our personal and professional lives. Not really. You can
yeah.
see. Thank you for sharing this. You have encouraged a lot of people to just be disorganized and embrace it and soak and, kind of bask in that glory. I love it.
You can immediately understand where my priorities lie.
And they are right. And yeah, you've got your priorities in the right place. And I think our listeners need to also get some of their priorities in the right place. And that is, think a little bit about the portfolios that they create. Because I feel like, like I said, the discussion used to be very important at, a few years ago. Like, especially when I remember that a few years ago when I started off, there was such a buzz around what's your portfolio? How are you updating it? How frequently? And suddenly that buzz and that conversation has kind of died down and people are focusing on a lot of other things. So can you start by telling us why is having a strong portfolio so critical for food photographers?
Yeah, absolutely. So at the beginning, you also mentioned that, yes, now we hear a lot about the prices and increase your prices and set your prices high and grow your business and so on and so forth. But you are really right because the first thing, like, is the portfolio. Like, if you have a great, strong portfolio, you can set your prices high. If you have a great looking portfolio, you can increase your prices over time. And so everything starts with the portfolio. And the portfolio is something that you need to develop straight from the beginning. And it's not something you can just do like today. Like, I decide to create a strong portfolio. Boom. It's not done in one day. And so, if you want to grow your business, if you want to grow your prices, and if you want to price very high and work with high paying clients, you need to have a strong portfolio. I was 8 years in human resources and I was looking for candidates for different positions. And the portfolio is like your curriculum. You cannot ask for like six-figure salary if you don't have the experiences that back you up, And so if you don't have a curriculum, you cannot even look for a job. If you don't have curriculum, you can't apply for a job. And so it's like if you don't have portfolio and you don't have strong portfolio, you cannot apply for the job or for the project. So this is the base. Get your portfolio at the first place and keep improving it over the years because it's a long-term focus.
Absolutely. I love it. I used to be an architect before I became a food photographer. So you can imagine that I definitely echo all your thoughts about the importance because even as an architect couldn't get a job without a portfolio. Like we couldn't even get a conversation going if we did not have our portfolios in our hands. And that was the beginning. Like you want to get your foot in the door, you have to have a portfolio. And I feel like that's kind of the same even in food photography. But I think like I can almost hear my listeners kind of having this question, which I have right now in my mind. And that is, I agree that it's a work in progress. Whether you are 1 year, 2 years, or 5 years into this business, you have to constantly update, like you said, keep adding to it and keep creating that portfolio. But what does someone do who has just started and maybe they don't have a style or they don't know the direction, but they're just beginning? So, do you think it's really important to have a very defined style right in the beginning to be able to start creating a portfolio, or how would you suggest that one just begins with it?
Yeah, I don't think that the style is necessary to have or to create when you are building your portfolio, because when we speak about the style, defining your style means years of experience. And if we are talking to the beginners, I don't want anyone to spend years first to define the style and then to build a portfolio. So if someone is at the beginning of their food photography and they are clear, like, I want to work with companies, I want to start having my business, I want to, work on paid projects, and this is the direction where I want to go, I don't care about finding my style, because at the beginning it would be very, maybe too much to look for the style, and you will find the style over the years. So for anyone who is starting, I think like focusing on building the portfolio is a must or has more priority than looking for their style. So they can develop their portfolio, they can launch their portfolio while at the same time and also after they are still looking for their style. So I don't think having your style defined is necessary for launching the portfolio. And there can be two directions. So you launch your portfolio, and we will speak about all the requirements and process how you do it a little bit later. But first, you launch your portfolio, and you can do it within 6 months since you start, or if you are very active with practicing and if you grow your skills and you follow certain classes, you can get it faster. So after some months, you can already launch your portfolio. And over time, you are improving it, looking for a style, experimenting, and so on and so forth. And you can come into two situations. So after years of experience, you develop your style. And this is, for example, we had a live interview with Maya Levitz in my membership, in the members club. And I remember the same exact question that I asked her. And I asked her, like, Maya, you have defined your photography style. Like, it's very beautiful and it's full of colors. The scenes are full and busy in a nice way. You work with complex compositions and your style is very bold and colorful. And so my question to her was, what your clients want you to create for them? Do they ask you for your style, or do they ask you to create something completely different? And she said that the majority of her clients were asking to create images based on her photography style. And so that is very different for me, because to be honest, I don't really know like what my style is, because I have been working with clients, and the majority of the clients that came to me, they were asking me for a completely different style. And at the first place, why I started working with one of my long-term clients that we work for 2 years now, they like the versatility of different styles in my portfolio. And so what saved me, or what made them contact me, was to have a very different styles in my portfolio. So it wasn't really defined. And since then, I always had projects where I created certain style for the first time, and clients ask me to create something completely different. So it's a very different example from Maya. So this is the proof that you don't need to have the style when you are starting your portfolio. But Maya is also the proof that after years, because she's working many years as a food photographer. So after years, when you develop your style, you can create your portfolio based on your style and have your style only. And clients can come to you and ask to create images based on your styles. Um, yeah, it is. There are these two directions, but they get developed with the years of experience.
I love that answer. It just opens up such a free way of thinking for anyone who's beginning. It's so unrestricted because I feel like a lot of folks who are in food photography, and not just beginners, a lot of folks kind of struggle with this: what is my style? What is my style? And they are stuck in this spiral of finding their style, and they try too hard. But if for a minute we leave away, we just put it aside and we say, we don't care what is style, we only care about creating, and we just kind of shake it out and we
Yeah.
just start creating, we can actually come up with such a versatile portfolio, like you said. So, just getting stuck on, I need to create in a certain way so that I have a cohesive portfolio may not be necessary. That's what I heard from you. And I 100% stand by it, because you will not know your style, especially when you're beginning, and to get caught in that, you're losing onto so many opportunities. The other thing that I really wanted to say was my experience has been kind of like yours and not like Maya's.
Mhm.
So I have also always been an advocate of, say, versatile. Know your strength and your style, but also stay versatile, because that opens so many opportunities to work with so many different type of clients. And I've almost never had two clients kind of want similar kind of
Yeah.
photos. So when we have that kind of variety, and that variety comes by just being free, open, exploring, just letting ourselves try different things in different lightings, different, styles, then it
Yeah.
kind of opens a very different way. And at any point in our careers, we always have the choice, right? We can go the Maya way, we can go that way and
Yes.
have something that, here's what I'm known for. Would you like to hire me for this? Or here's everything that I can create for you. What would you like? So it's a
Absolutely.
choice. I love it. By the way, Maya was also on our podcast 2 years
Oh.
ago. And we talked about storytelling, and she's amazing. And we
Yes.
absolutely love her work with colors for sure.
Yes, yes, yes. This is something very strong that is present in her images. I just wanted to add that yes, when we focus on the like not really focus, but when we play with versatility of different styles, the other thing which helps us is the mindset, because it happens very often when we talk to client and they start describing us like I want something like this and like that, and when we have never done it, it's fine. But because we have tried and, did many different styles before, we don't have this fear of trying something new again. Because I know like every project that I did for my client was sort of new and it was the first time that I did. But because I tried something new and it worked out, and I lose that fear of accepting new projects, while it might fear someone, because if someone is like focusing on one style and this is what I do for my clients, this is what I like, and this is what I know, it might feel a little bit scary to jump into a project with a completely different request from what they usually do. So it is helping us also with the mindset and with unblocking the blocks.
This is so critical. I'm so happy that you shared this, because this is so critical. I still remember in my early days, every time I had a project, I actually practiced my shots before I went for my shoot. And I still remember my biggest like fear factor was
Mhm.
hard light. And my first project that came was a hard light shoot, and I didn't know how to do it with artificial light. So I practiced for weeks before I could. I said yes, of course,
Yeah.
but then I practiced for weeks, but I was very scared. And so you have brought up such an important point, that fear can make us lose clients and
Yes.
opportunities.
Absolutely. And indeed, you said a great point that after accepting something you are completely like new to, like you have no idea how to create it, you have minimum of 2 weeks before the shoot really happens. And so just practice it and learn and learn and learn. And I very often do test shots with my new
Mm-hmm.
clients or with my current clients that request something very different that I have never done. I do
Mm-hmm.
test shot because we are testing that new style and how it works, and it serves for me, but it serves for them as well to just get aligned on the final details of that some certain style that I have never done. They maybe it's new for them as well, so that's why I love doing test shots.
And it's such a good practice. I mean, not just practice, like practice makes perfect, not that practice, but it's such healthy practice, because when you go on the set, you are so much more confident. And I feel like it doesn't matter. It doesn't put anyone down, whether you're 1 year or 5 years of experience. If you're practicing your shots before you go on the set, you just cruise through it. So I just feel that it's in general a very healthy practice to do that. But coming back to our discussion on portfolio creation,
Sure.
Lucia, you were telling us some really nice pointers. Like versatility was definitely one, which is a choice that people can have. Not getting stuck on creating something in a specific style. Would there be another, like maybe two or three considerations that you can share that people must kind of keep in mind when they are creating their portfolios?
Absolutely. So, keeping versatility out of those two, 3 points. The other very important thing at the beginning, before we start, even create the images for the portfolio, not even when putting it together, but creating the images. Before doing that, we need to do the research about our clients and we need to understand their needs. So, what that means is that I would go on the website of the client, of the brand that I want to work with. For example, just the example of that I want to work with, because it can be the olive oil company. And I will just choose one brand, no, or two or three, and I will just have a look at what images they have and what are their needs and how they showcase their product and how they position their product in the images. So I just get an understanding like how they present their products, how they communicate, and what are their needs for the future in case they want to work with other photographers, create other images. So first of all, I need to have this understanding about how businesses, what kind of images businesses need. And so then I can understand, okay, I need to shoot this kind of products. I need to shoot them in this way. I see that clients are using a lot of hands or human element in the images. So I need to have that human element in my portfolio because this is what they use now. This is probably what they like, and that this is what they will want in the future as well. So the first thing is researching about the clients before actually creating the images. So then the second very important thing, which I often see that is missing in the portfolios of new food photographers, especially, is that they don't include the product images. So they create the entire portfolio around recipes and they try to contact brands for product photography.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a misalignment between what I am showing you, like what I am capable of, and what I'm asking you to create. It is a
Mm-hmm.
completely different assignment. And I always teach my students or always tell them like add product images to your portfolio because this is why companies are going to pay you, not for creating recipe images. Yes, there are those projects when you create a recipe, but most of the time you are pitching for product images. So you need to have product images in your portfolio. And the third point, which I would say, is to kind of mix your images personal style with the requirements of your clients. So while I don't want to push anyone to create only the style of their dream clients because we research this is what they like, this is what they use, so I'm going to only create those images, you will not end up very happy creating those images. So it's always like create your image based on your style, but adjust it. And like based on those requirements for the dream clients you want to attract.
I love it. I think for me, it would be so important that it's a mix.
Yeah.
Like we definitely, because I feel like when we start out, we almost never know who we want to work with. But what we do know is what we like to shoot and what brings us joy. So just start there and then mix it up, like you said. So having that combination is such a good tip because as you're exploring, you will understand what you like to shoot more. And then you'll be like, oh, I have a thing for tea. I love to shoot tea. For some reason,
Yeah.
I just love shooting tea. And there was a time when I was shooting red tea and yellow tea and blue tea, and I was only pitching to tea brands. Like I had
Mhm.
weeks of only pitching to tea brands. And I realized how much I love to work with tea. So why not pitch to tea brands? It was kind
Absolutely.
of that kind of a thinking. So that's where you're coming from, I feel.
Yeah. So yes, I do agree very strongly. So the first month or first period is really to experiment with different subjects and understand what you like. And it is something that your family likes, your family enjoys, you enjoy, and you have very often at home also because it's practical, right? To work with brands that send you products that fit with your lifestyle. So this is
Mm-hmm.
because you are keeping the products, you eventually eat them, finish them, and so on and so forth. So it's practical from this point of view, but it's also bringing you joy photographing those subjects that you like. And after a few months, you know what you like and what you don't like to photograph. So just build up, do your research around the brands, like the tea companies, like research all the tea companies in your country, abroad, and just see like what images they use, how they show the product, what kind of images they need for the catalogs, for the website, videos for Instagram, and so on and so forth, and just build your portfolio around those needs. This is,
Mm-hmm.
I believe, the fastest way how you can really get them work with you and develop your business.
Absolutely. And tell me, Lucia, is there like, do photographers really need to create different portfolios for different purposes? And how do they decide which photos go into which portfolio? Or, usually we have one and it has like 20 photos in it. But do you think that is the way to go, or should there really be different portfolios for different purposes?
Absolutely. So we need to also understand what kind of companies we are approaching. And there are different types of companies that we need to have the relevant images for. So when we are working with food brands, I believe one big portfolio gallery with a mix of recipes and product photos is great for them. But as soon as we start adding different types of companies, like, for example, restaurants or hotels, restaurants are not interested in seeing product photos, and product companies are not interested in seeing our interior, beautiful restaurant menus shot. And
Mm-hmm.
so, if you work with more and more different brands, and if you start having more and more images inside your one portfolio gallery and it's becoming a mess, at that point I would advise you to divide it and have a product gallery, which can be a mix of recipes and products that works together, and then have a separate gallery which is dedicated for the restaurants and hotels. And then if you add another niche to your business, like portraits or branding photography, just create another gallery with people and with branding photos, because those people are not interested in seeing your recipes. And it will also help you in having a more effective pitch. So if you have galleries on individual pages, separate pages, you can just send a link to that specific gallery to your clients. And so this is really great because it's for saving them time to just access the gallery and just to see the images that they are interested in, and do not bother them with anything else that they don't need to see. So yes, definitely. But also separating gallery means that I'm going to create a separate page with the gallery of images with at least 15 to 20 images. Like the more the better, but don't separate the gallery with 5 images only or 10
Mm-hmm.
images. It might feel like not enough, right? Examples. So minimum 15, 20, and the more the better.
Wow, I love that. I love that tip. And also, I feel like if I may just add that not everybody has a website when they start. So people can have galleries and they can have different, gallery pages. But let's say someone doesn't have it, they can still do the same thing that you're saying. And all they have to do is have different PDFs, maybe if that's
Yeah.
their convenient way of, the categories, like you said, product can be one, and food can be one, and people can be one, and architecture can be one, and they just create different PDFs so that whosoever's the applicable party or the brand that they want to pitch to, they just send that out, or they just link that PDF. So it's not necessary that everyone needs to have a website with galleries,
Yeah.
but the same principle can be applied even if they have to. It just, what you're saying is that we should be very targeted in what aspect of our portfolio we show to whom. That is
Absolutely.
important.
Yeah. Regarding this, for example, I know that building portfolio is a more complex process. But if you are a step before and you need just some sort of gallery you need to show a gallery to your potential client, you can, for example, use Pixieset and just upload the images inside the Pixieset collection and send a link to the collection. It's just the collection, the gallery of images, nothing else, and you just send that one link to the client. So you don't need to necessarily build your portfolio very quickly, like if I don't have a portfolio and I need to contact the client or I need to show my images tomorrow, online is always the best way because they can access it, like easily and without downloading the PDF and so on and so forth. So it's a safer way how to share your images. Just, yeah, I would advise using Pixieset Gallery and sharing the link to the gallery directly. You can turn off the downloads. You can turn on the possibility of having your name across, the image. I never remember how you say
The watermark.
watermark.
Yes, yes.
At the watermark on the top of the image, so they cannot screenshot it, they cannot download it, they just can review and yeah.
I love Pixieset. And I got introduced to Pixieset by a portrait photographer who was taking my photos. And
Ah,
when they delivered the gallery of my photos, it was in Pixieset. I'm like, what is that? That is so cool. And that day, that was like even before I was a food photographer. And that day, I got introduced to something like Pixieset, and I've used that from day one. It is so powerful. And what is important is that it's free up to a certain storage.
absolutely.
So
Yes.
it's a great resource. Thank you. We will link it in our show notes for anyone who wants to go explore it. It's a great way to showcase your portfolio and to deliver images. What a great tip, Lucia. Not only that we do need different portfolios for different purposes, but also what a free and easy and an effective way to share that portfolio with, who we need to. How about,
Absolutely.
so everybody, whenever we think of these photography portfolios, we are always like, it's beautiful and we've got all these big photos and lots of storytelling and props, and it just looks like a I'm losing the word. Okay, it looks like a magazine. All right,
Yes.
it looks very curated, very beautiful,
Yes.
almost unreal. But a beautiful portfolio is one thing, and an impactful portfolio is another. Yes, we want people to look at our photos and make them hungry and make them want to eat that food. That is our role as food photographers. We also want that portfolio to do its job.
Mhm.
And that job could be whatever. It could be to make an impact, to get a job, to create a conversation with a client. There could be many different things. So, a beautiful portfolio, I feel like a beautiful portfolio is one thing, and an impactful portfolio is another.
I
So,
agree.
right. Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah, yeah.
So, can you give us like maybe a few tips on how we can improve or increase the impact of our portfolio and
Mm.
create an impactful portfolio, basically?
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So to really create the impactful portfolio, the first tip, like I might have already mentioned it a few times, but I will mention it again. You need to have the relevant images for the clients you are pitching. So if you are trying to, for example, I was at the beginning trying to pitch restaurants without having restaurant images in my portfolio. And of course, I didn't get any. I was not very, very pushy at that point, but I understand it's not working, right? So having the relevant images in the portfolio is the most important point. Like if the companies don't see anything relevant in your portfolio, it's not impactful. So the point number one, just make sure that you have the relevant images in your portfolio. Just a very brief example. I want to contact and I want to pitch tea companies, tea brands, but all images I have in my portfolio are photographing desserts, salads, I don't know what else, chocolate and cookies.
Mhm.
And this is not, I don't have relevant images in my portfolio. So I understand that I need to add tea images, tea product images, catalog maybe tea images, and so on and so forth. So these are the relevant images for the client. So then the second tip for having a strong or impactful portfolio would be to optimize the SEO, to have the SEO on your
Mhm.
portfolio. So this is especially relevant when working on local clients, local markets. So optimize the most important pages with the right keywords that are around you in your region or in your town. Because brands in the location, I believe they are, or very often it happens that they prefer working with the local photographers because for the commodity of having the photographer physically close, so they can meet anytime they need, they can come to the shoot anytime they need, I can visit my client anytime I need. And I feel they're also more loyal because once they find a local photographer, they don't, and they get used to this physical, like you know, not the
Mm-hmm.
distance, but the physical, like having the
Yes.
photographer
In
around
person, yeah,
in
having them
person.
present in person. Yes.
Yeah, they will prefer to have that photographer for a longer period of time. So they will be more loyal and they will not want to change for another photographer. So having SEO optimized portfolio is very, very important. The third is don't overcomplicate the portfolio structure and don't make clients click more than 2 times or 3 times to find something they are looking for. So I remember I was doing a test when a year ago when I was creating my mission portfolio course for my members in the members club. And I was especially looking at this and I was testing different portfolios of food photographers in Turin. And I found one and I was like, okay, how many minutes do I need or how many clicks do I need to find a portfolio gallery on that specific website? Trust me that I spent 5 minutes looking for the portfolio gallery and I have never found it.
Ooh.
And the portfolio had all the text and the copy only written, and there was one image, two images on one page, like
Mm.
just the example, like image you put together with the text. But it's like, where can I see the portfolio? I want to see the gallery. I was like 5 minutes looking for the gallery. I didn't, and then I gave up.
Wow.
So don't make your clients click more than 2 times, like go through two links to find something specific. So the gallery should be easily foundable. The separate eventually galleries should be easily foundable. The services should be easily foundable, and the examples, the project examples as well. These are the most important elements of your portfolio. So it should be nice and super easy linked eventually from the menu or from the homepage. The other fourth tip for the impactful portfolio is to have projects mentioned on your website. So this is not maybe relevant for the beginners, but as soon as you start working on different projects, just mention them on your website and add the product and add those images that you created. Describe a little bit more about the project. And this is a great way how you can show your skills and what you are capable of to new clients. And yeah, lastly, as I mentioned already, if anyone wants to separate the images into individual galleries, I would advise not having less than 15, 20 images in one gallery. So I would eventually, as soon as I start working maybe with restaurants and hotels, I would separate them and I would create an individual separate gallery for this type of brands. I would have recipes and product images in one portfolio gallery. And if I start working with, for example, farms and shooting vineyards and those type of, photography, I would create again a new eventual gallery just for this type of clients as soon as I have enough images to add. And then, yes, just the versatility of having different moods and different styles, different aspect, different perspectives, different situations, different type of images. Like I know a catalog image with a white background, it's not the most exciting project to work on, but many clients might ask you because if they ask you to create images for their website, they need images for with the white background. So add those type of images that don't excite you, but you are capable of doing them, right? Because you don't want client excluding you from the project because I haven't seen any like white background images. I need to create 100 white background images, and I just exclude you because I haven't seen any. So just like that.
Wow, these are mind blowing. Really, this is so powerful. Like, we could literally end our episode right now. It is so good. Thank you. Really, there was so much in it for me also to learn. There are so many times when I jumble up my work and I'll just like mishmash them and put in like my commercial work with my editorial or my personal with my client work, and I feel like, oh, it's a nice segue, it's a nice way to scroll, but no, clearly not. So thank you. This was amazing, and I hope that for those who are tuning in, I would highly encourage that you go back, you listen, and you make notes so that whenever you're creating your portfolio, whether it is online or through a gallery or PDF or whatever, I think these are fantastic points to be kept in mind, no matter what experience level You are right. This is definitely impactful. I love it, Lucia.
Well, I'm happy it helped.
Yeah, no. I want to touch upon the creative versatility that you talked about. You said that, we kind of want to have that kind of a play as well. But how do we how important is it for our portfolio to really look like, oh, it's one person's portfolio or it's a cohesive look in a portfolio? Is that really important? Like, can we still maintain that versatility and that creative spark? And
Yeah.
and also our client work may be so different, so is it important, how important is that cohesive look in our portfolios?
So I understand that when we create versatility and we create different styles, and so the image with the hard light has a super strong tonal contrast, and maybe the colors are boosted. And then when we create another image with super soft lighting and very soft shadows, and everything is sort of like the colors are not so strong and they are somehow blended. And there are those different styles that I recommend adding into one portfolio. So at that point, it might not be very cohesive, but if I'm showing the versatility and different styles, and this is what I'm capable of, having not a very cohesive look would be actually acceptable for me, because also the editing must be different, right? So I want to show that I'm capable of editing cooler image, editing warmer image, editing hard light image, editing soft light image. But when it comes to the cohesive look, because I have seen so many, many, many portfolios also from my students and so on and so forth. And so when you choose the best images and you put them together and you feel like, okay, the level of contrast is working together, the warmth or the color temperature or the white balance is working together. You can still play with the positioning of different images. So you don't necessarily position two very different images next to another, but you do some sort of, you position them lower where the eye already doesn't see the first image, and then you scroll to the softer image. So you can play with the positioning. But the biggest mistakes that I saw when it comes to cohesive look was when the image had a wrong color cast. Like I could literally see that the image has the color cast. And it doesn't work with the rest of the images because the rest of the images were nice and clean, and the white balance was perfectly balanced and the colors were accurate. And then I see an image which had a lot of color cast and there was like a fog over the image. So it was not well balanced in terms of the contrast. So this is when we don't have that cohesive look, and we can still use the image because the image can work in the portfolio. But let's just re-edit the image in the way that we correct the color cast and we correct the colors. And so also when I'm working with the orange color throughout my portfolio and I have a lot of orange color, I make sure that that orange color has the same hue of the orange color. It can have different tonality, of course. It can have different saturation, of course, because it must work with the mood of this and the style of the image. But at least working with the same colors across the portfolio is really great. And also, if, for example, my style is warmer and I do create warmer white balance in my images, and then I place one image which is super cool, it just does not feel right? It doesn't feel cohesive. So I would eventually try to maybe re-edit that image or just take it out. And just that's something which really like takes my eye and takes a lot of attention. Like that should not be there. Maybe like if you don't want to, of course, go for this feel like you have something and then you want one image to really stand out because it might catch the attention of your client. Yes, this is intentional. But if you want your portfolio to be cohesive, just have a look at those images with wrong color cast, not cohesive hue of colors in the photos, and try to edit them in the way that they feel cohesive.
Wow. Yeah. And what I heard is that cohesiveness doesn't come from just creating one style of photos.
Yes.
Cohesiveness comes in the flow. So the way your portfolio is flowing and the way people are experiencing it, they will not mind the jump from hard light to soft light as long as the hue of your colors, or there is a kind of something that ties one photo to the other. And mostly it could be the white balance, like you said, or maybe the choice of the color palette, or things like that. So the flow is very important. And what is also important is that you don't work too hard on making it all the same and all cohesive in terms of putting in the same kind of photos. Because, I'm sure you've had the same experience, Lucia, that, many times when our clients come to us, they actually don't even know what is hard light. You say
Yes,
soft light, hard
yes,
light, they don't know this. What do? You open your portfolio book
yes,
or you to open your website and you show them what it means.
yes,
If you don't have that variety, how will you? It's like a catalog. How will you show them the catalog if you don't have enough variety in your catalog of what you offer?
yeah,
So
yes,
hard light and soft light may not seem cohesive, but they are cohesive with the service that you would like to provide.
yes. I had the exact experience like what you mentioned with the hard light. So when I was talking to a client, I we had a first meeting and I was asking about what style they want for the photos. And I asked them, "Do you want the hard light? Do you want to have the direct light like with the hard shadows?" And they're like, "No, no, no. No, we don't like that." And I was like thinking like, but the images that they sent me first, the majority of them were with the hard light. And so then I just researched one of my images from the portfolio and I showed them like, do we want this light? They're like, yes, yes, yes. It was the hard light.
That is what they wanted. They just didn't know what it was called.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I have a client who will always send me a mood board with tons of soft light, and they'll be like, we only want hard light. And then I have to tell them that is not hard light, but you want a soft light. They're like, yeah, whatever. This is what we want. So they get caught up in terminology. And so that image is so important, that reference point. So that cohesiveness comes from, so many different ways. I actually had a very interesting experience very early on. It was probably the first project I ever bid on. Like I was asked by an agency and they asked me to send my portfolio. And obviously I was shaking because I was so scared. And I sent them a portfolio. It was a restaurant. And I remember that I had put all my photos in a certain sequence. And I think I had about 10 photos and I sent it out as a PDF, all right, because we had to send it. It wasn't a link, I remember. I didn't get that project, and that was for different reasons. But the agency lady was very sweet. And she actually understood that I was just beginning. And it was probably the first time because obviously there was a lot of difference between my bid and the bid from other, very experienced photographers. And so she sent me examples of portfolios of the experienced photographers.
Oh, wow.
And
That's
she said that I think this would be helpful for you. So,
yes.
and there was nothing that she was breaching privacy or confidentiality. It was all public, information that those photographers had online. So it was still okay to share, but I didn't have access. So she gave me access to them. Now, there was something that I noticed about it. And I want to ask you this question because this gets left out a lot. It was not something I was aware of at that time. And I have seen that a lot of photographers have different viewpoints on it. And so I would
Mhm,
love to hear what your take is. And that is about organizing the photos in a portfolio. So when
mhm.
I had sent out my portfolio, they were 10 photos in one sequence. And it was like boom, 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 page one, page two, page three kind of thing. But when she sent me those reference portfolios, they were organized in a very different way. There were some that were organized by natural and artificial light. So there were 5 photos of natural light, some with artificial light. There was one portfolio in which light work, like the bright and airy, was separated from the dark and moody in the sequence. And it was very clearly labeled. This is bright, this is dark, this is natural, this is artificial. And for artificial light, even the gear was mentioned. So, is there something that you have found? Is there a recommended way that we must organize our photos? One way better than the other? What's your take on this? So that was part one of our conversation with Lucia. And tell me that you loved it as much as I did. She gave us such key takeaways. I mean, as much freedom as we have in creating our portfolio, there's so much to think about as well. And many times we actually put so many restrictions on ourselves and we put ourselves in a box and we put so many like parameters that we need to fulfill when actually it's not even needed. And so, just from knowing that we don't even need to have a defined style to be able to create a portfolio is so liberating. And the idea of creating an impactful portfolio and how we can do it, wow, that is empowering, right? So, there's so much more that we will talk about in part two. That will be all about how do we attract the clients and how do our portfolios actually get us better fees and make more money in our business and elevate our brand, and so much more that is going to happen in part two. But in the meantime, if you have any questions, feel free to email me at hello@myfoodlens.com or send me a DM on Instagram at Gitama_myfoodlens. I'll see you next week with another episode. Until then, bye bye.